Right now, in this very moment, you have a choice. You can continue living the same life you've been living, or you can decide that today is the day everything changes. I want you to understand something that most people never realize. Your brain is the most powerful tool you will ever possess, yet most of us treat it like a storage closet we never organize. We stuff it with meaningless information, let it collect dust, and wonder why our lives feel stagnant. I'm here to tell you that education isn't something that stops when you leave school. Real education begins when you take responsibility for your own growth, when you wake up every morning and make the conscious decision to become better than you were yesterday. The person you are today is a direct result of what you've learned, absorbed, and applied throughout your life. If you want to change who you are, you must change what you feed your mind. Think about this for a moment. Every skill you have, every piece of knowledge you possess, every belief you hold, came from somewhere. It didn't magically appear in your head. You learned it. You absorbed it. You made it part of who you are. This means that everything you don't know, everything you can't do, every limitation you have is simply the result of not having learned it yet. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled with knowledge, skills, and understanding that you haven't acquired yet. Most people treat learning like it's a burden, something they have to do rather than something they get to do. They see education as punishment instead of privilege. But I want to shift your perspective completely. Learning isn't something that happens to you. It's something you actively choose to engage in. When you approach education with curiosity instead of resistance, when you see knowledge as treasure instead of homework, everything changes. Your current reality is nothing more than the sum total of your past decisions and actions. If you don't like your current reality, you have the power to change it by making different decisions and taking different actions. But here's the key. You can only make better decisions if you have better information. You can only take more effective actions if you have more knowledge and skills. This is why education is the ultimate form of self-empowerment. Education informs every decision, which transforms every level of unconsciousness. I want you to imagine your mind as a garden. Right now, whatever is growing in that garden is the result of what you've planted there over the years. If you've planted seeds of doubt, fear, and limitation, that's what's flourishing in your mental landscape. If you've planted seeds of possibility, growth, and empowerment, then that's what you're experiencing in your life. The beautiful thing about this metaphor is that you can start planting new seeds today. You can begin cultivating a completely different mental environment. Every piece of information you consume is a seed. Every book you read, every video you watch, every conversation you have with someone who challenges your thinking is you planting something new in your mental garden. But here's what most people don't understand. You have to be intentional about what you plant. You can't just consume random information and expect to grow in a specific direction. You need to be strategic about your learning. The world we live in today offers us unprecedented access to knowledge. Never in the history of humanity has so much information been available to so many people. Yet despite this incredible opportunity, most people are learning less than ever before. They're consuming more information, but gaining less knowledge. They're busier than ever, but growing slower than ever. Why? Because they've confused consumption with education. Consuming information is passive. You scroll through social media, you watch random videos, you listen to conversations without really thinking about them. This is mental junk food. It fills you up, but doesn't nourish you. Real education is active. It requires you to engage, to question, to challenge, to apply. It's the difference between eating candy and eating vegetables. Both will fill your stomach, but only one will make you stronger. I need you to understand that your ability to learn is your greatest competitive advantage. In a world where technology is changing everything, where jobs are being automated, where entire industries are disappearing overnight, the people who thrive are those who can adapt, who can learn new skills quickly, who can think critically and solve problems creatively. Your degree might get you in the door, but your ability to continuously educate yourself will determine how far you go. The most successful people I know share one common characteristic. They are all lifelong learners. They never stop asking questions. They never stop seeking better ways to do things. They never stop challenging their own assumptions and beliefs. They understand that the moment you stop learning is the moment you start dying. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Here's something that might surprise you. Your formal education, everything you learned in school, represents less than 5% of what you need to know to be successful in life. School taught you to read, write, and do basic math. But did it teach you how to manage your emotions? Did it teach you how to build relationships? Did it teach you how to manage money? Did it teach you how to think critically about complex problems? Did it teach you how to adapt to change? Did it teach you how to find your passion and pursue it relentlessly? The answer is probably no. This isn't a criticism of formal education. It's simply recognition that school can only give you the foundation. The rest of your education is up to you. This is actually incredible news because it means you're in control. You get to decide what you learn, when you learn it, and how you apply it. Think about the most successful people in any field. They didn't become successful because they stopped learning after graduation. They became successful because they made learning a daily habit. They read books that challenged their thinking. They sought out mentors who could teach them new perspectives. They experimented with new approaches. They failed, learned from their failures, and tried again. They treated their entire life as a classroom. Every challenge you face is actually a learning opportunity in disguise. Every problem that frustrates you is asking you to develop new skills or gain new knowledge. Every obstacle in your path is an invitation to grow stronger, smarter, and more resourceful. But most people miss these opportunities because they're focused on avoiding discomfort instead of embracing growth. I want to share something with you that completely changed my perspective on learning. There are two types of people in this world: those who see problems as obstacles and those who see problems as puzzles. When most people encounter a challenge, they immediately start looking for reasons why they can't overcome it. They focus on their limitations, their lack of resources, their past failures. But successful people approach challenges differently. They get excited by problems because they know that solving problems is how you grow. When you encounter something you don't know how to do, instead of saying, "I can't do this," start saying, "I can't do this yet." That one word, "yet," changes everything. It shifts your mindset from fixed to growth-oriented. It acknowledges that your current abilities are not permanent. It reminds you that everything you know how to do now was once something you didn't know how to do. Learning is not about perfection. It's about progression. You don't have to be perfect at something to benefit from studying it. You don't have to master a skill completely before you can start applying it. The goal is to be slightly better today than you were yesterday. If you can commit to that simple principle, if you can make marginal improvements every single day, the compound effect over time will amaze you. Most people dramatically underestimate what they can accomplish in a year and dramatically overestimate what they can accomplish in a day. They want instant results, immediate transformation, overnight success. But real growth happens gradually, consistently, persistently. It's like water carving through rock. Each drop by itself seems insignificant, but over time, the accumulated effect creates canyons. I need you to understand that learning is not just about acquiring information. It's about developing your capacity to think. When you learn something new, you're not just adding data to your mental database. You're actually rewiring your brain. You're creating new neural pathways. You're expanding your ability to process information, make connections, and solve problems. Your brain is incredibly plastic, which means it can change and adapt throughout your entire life. Scientists used to think that after a certain age, your brain was fixed, that you couldn't teach an old dog new tricks. We now know that's completely false. Your brain can continue growing, developing, and improving until the day you die, but only if you keep challenging it. only if you keep feeding it new experiences and information. This is why comfort zones are so dangerous. When you stay in your comfort zone, when you only do things you already know how to do, your brain stops growing. It becomes lazy. It atrophies. Just like muscles that aren't used regularly become weak, a mind that isn't challenged regularly becomes dull. The way to keep your mind sharp is to constantly push it beyond its current limits. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster. Every successful person was once someone who failed more than they succeeded. The difference between those who eventually succeeded and those who gave up is simple. The successful ones kept learning. When they failed, instead of quitting, they asked themselves what they could learn from the failure. They treated every setback as education, every mistake as a lesson, every rejection as redirection. I want you to start thinking about your life as a continuous experiment. You're the scientist and your life is the laboratory. Every day you get to test new hypotheses, try new approaches, gather new data about what works and what doesn't. This perspective transforms everything because it removes the pressure to be perfect and replaces it with curiosity about what's possible. The most limiting beliefs you have about yourself were learned. If they were learned, they can be unlearned. If they can be unlearned, they can be replaced with empowering beliefs. Your past does not determine your future unless you let it. Your current limitations are not permanent unless you make them so. Your present circumstances are not your final destination unless you stop moving. Education is the process of replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones. It's the process of expanding your sense of what's possible. Every time you learn something new, every time you develop a new skill, every time you challenge an old assumption, you're literally changing who you are. You're becoming a new version of yourself. Most people resist change because they're afraid of the unknown. They'd rather stick with familiar problems than risk unfamiliar solutions. But I want you to understand that the unknown is where all possibilities exist. Everything you want that you don't currently have exists in the unknown. Every skill you want to develop, every goal you want to achieve, every version of yourself you want to become is waiting for you in territory you haven't explored yet. This is why learning requires courage. It requires you to admit that you don't know everything. It requires you to be vulnerable enough to be bad at something before you get good at it. It requires you to risk being wrong in order to eventually be right. Most people's ego won't let them do this. They'd rather pretend they know something than admit they don't and actually learn it. True confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing that you can learn anything. When you develop the ability to learn quickly and effectively, you become unstoppable. You're no longer limited by your current knowledge and skills. You're only limited by your willingness to grow. I want to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. You are probably capable of far more than you currently believe. The limits you think you have are mostly imaginary. They're based on past experiences, other people's opinions, and societal programming. They're not based on your actual potential. Your actual potential is unknown because it's unlimited. Every day, you have the opportunity to expand beyond your current identity. You can choose to learn something that challenges your current worldview. You can choose to develop a skill that seemed impossible before. You can choose to tackle a problem that seemed too complex. You can choose to become someone you've never been before. The education system taught you that learning happens in classrooms with teachers and textbooks. But real learning happens everywhere, all the time. Every person you meet knows something you don't know. Every situation you encounter has lessons to teach you. Every experience you have contains wisdom if you're willing to extract it. Successful people are master extractors. They extract lessons from every experience, wisdom from every encounter, insights from every observation. They don't just live their lives, they study their lives. They pay attention to what works and what doesn't. They notice patterns and trends. They constantly adjust their approach based on what they're learning. Your smartphone has access to more information than the greatest libraries in history. You literally carry the sum total of human knowledge in your pocket. Yet most people use this incredible tool to distract themselves rather than educate themselves. They use it to escape reality rather than improve their reality. This is perhaps the greatest tragedy of our time. Unlimited access to knowledge, coupled with unlimited resistance to learning. I challenge you to transform your relationship with technology. Instead of using it to numb your mind, use it to expand your mind. Instead of consuming content that makes you feel good temporarily, consume content that makes you grow permanently. Instead of following people who reinforce your existing beliefs, follow people who challenge you to think differently. Reading is one of the most powerful forms of education available to you. When you read, you're literally downloading someone else's thoughts, experiences, and insights directly into your brain. You can learn in hours what took someone years to figure out. You can avoid mistakes that others have already made. You can build upon ideas that others have already developed. But reading alone isn't enough. You have to apply what you learn. Knowledge without application is just trivia. Information without implementation is just entertainment. The goal isn't to know more, it's to do more with what you know. It's to become more because of what you've learned. I'm going to use it. I want you to think about the person you want to become 5 years from now. What skills would that person have that you don't currently have? What knowledge would they possess that you haven't acquired yet? What beliefs would they hold that you haven't adopted? What habits would they practice that you haven't developed? The path from who you are to who you want to become is paved with education. Most people approach learning backwards. They wait until they need to know something before they learn it. But successful people learn proactively. They anticipate what they'll need to know and start learning it before they need it. They prepare themselves for opportunities before the opportunities arrive. They develop skills before those skills are required. This is called learning for leverage. Every piece of knowledge you acquire, every skill you develop, every insight you gain gives you leverage in life. It multiplies your ability to create value, solve problems, and achieve your goals. Education is the ultimate form of investment because it's the one investment that no one can take away from you. Think about compound interest. When you invest money, it grows over time because you earn interest on your interest. Education works the same way. Everything you learn connects to and builds upon everything else you've learned. The more you know, the easier it becomes to learn new things. The more skills you have, the faster you can develop additional skills. The more you understand about how the world works, the better you become at navigating it. Most people think they're too old to learn new things, but age is actually an advantage when it comes to education. You have more life experience to connect new information to. You have more wisdom to help you distinguish between what's important and what's not. You have more perspective to help you see how different pieces of knowledge fit together. The only thing that makes you too old to learn is the belief that you're too old to learn. If you believe you can continue growing and developing throughout your entire life, then you can. Your beliefs about your learning ability become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe learning is easy and enjoyable, it becomes easy and enjoyable. If you believe learning is hard and boring, I want to share a secret with you. The most successful people in the world are not necessarily the smartest people. They're the people who never stop learning. Intelligence is not fixed. It's not something you're born with a certain amount of and can never change. Intelligence is something you develop through consistent mental exercise. It's something you build by challenging yourself intellectually every single day. There are different types of intelligence, and you can develop all of them. There's analytical intelligence, the ability to solve problems and think critically. There's creative intelligence, the ability to generate new ideas and see connections others miss. There's emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage emotions effectively. There's social intelligence, the ability to navigate relationships and influence others positively. There's practical intelligence, the ability to get things done in the real world. Most people focus on developing only one type of intelligence, usually the type that comes naturally to them. But well-rounded success requires multiple types of intelligence. The good news is that you can develop any type of intelligence you want through deliberate practice and focused learning. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. But just like physical exercise, mental exercise needs to be progressive. You need to constantly challenge yourself with more difficult material, more complex problems, more sophisticated thinking. If you keep doing the same mental exercises over and over, your brain will adapt and stop growing.